Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex and I'm Polish. I've been living in US for 8 years and I'm still learning about the reality of life in here. The question I kept asking is, what about the racism in America? So today I decided to invite my friend and I decided to ask him some uncomfortable and honest questions because I feel I have the need to learn. And it's a little bit of an absurd, but I made a first Black friend when I was 29 years old here in America. Poland is a very homogenic country. Everyone looks the same in Poland, so I never had a chance to even become friends with a Black person. That's why now I'm trying to learn and develop this knowledge and ask questions. I hope you will join me and watch this episode as my friend Zeus answered some really tough questions and he showed it from such a beautiful perspective. It's worth watching. Enjoy the episode.
Polka w Ameryce.
Hi Zeus, thank you so much for meeting me.
Hey Alex.
And I'm happy you wanted to take part in this video. It really means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
So before we start this episode, can you tell me how you would define racism so we know where you come from when you hear that word, racism?
Okay. How I would define racism is basically a structure of power where there's one group who has the power to oppress another group, and they organize it by categorizing who's superior and who's not. And in America, it's definitely black, white, and brown, yellow, and all these other subordinate colors to white. And so I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So do you think that in America, racism towards white people is also possible or not?
So I believe that people can have bad feelings towards white people, but racism involves or requires power. And so while a person who's not white can not like a white person or have bad feelings towards a white person, they can't stop them from owning a home in a certain neighborhood, or they can't stop them from getting jobs. You know, like it's more of a power dynamic than it is not liking someone or having ill feelings towards someone. Racism is a power move.
Mm-hmm. Very well said.
Thank you.
How can I call you a black person? Is it okay to call a person a black person?
Well, Alex, to be honest with you, in my opinion, I feel like we aren't colors. And the idea that we reference each other as colors is very primitive. We are people, we have feelings, we have spirits, we have emotions. I would love to just be considered American because I was born here. This is my nation. However, because of my skin color, I have this prefix that is set upon me against my own will, because that's just how I'm seen through the power dynamic. I'm African American or Black American, but that prefix is inappropriate. It kind of it takes away from my nationality. I'm an American person. I'm proud to be here. I love New York. I love America. For some reason, I still have to, not necessarily have to, but it's expected for me to embrace this prefix of Black American, African American, and I think that's inappropriate.
And you don't like it?
I don't like it. No.
Mm-hmm. So you call yourself an American?
An American, yeah, a proud American.
A proud American?
Yes, absolutely.
Like most Americans?
Like most Americans, you know, no prefix needed.
Do you remember the first time you realized that racism exists? Do you remember the first time you felt it?
Yes, actually I do. I was walking home from school and a car drove by full of kids probably around my age, maybe a little older. And
How old were you?
I was about maybe 12, 13, 14, maybe like in high school. So like probably 14 years old. And a group of kids in a car rolled by with just yelling nigger.
White kids?
White kids, yes.
And that's when you realized that you're being judged by the color of your skin.
Yeah, and I wasn't doing anything. I was walking home, and I guess they felt it necessary or cool or fitting to just yell at to someone.
Has it happened a lot in your life
No.
after that?
No. Fortunately, I haven't been called a nigger to my face a lot, so I'm grateful for that. But before that incident, it didn't exist to me. Like I grew up in a very welcoming environment. I never felt like I wasn't accepted. Now, again, I was a kid, so I probably didn't catch everything. But that was the most blatant form of like racism. I was around 14 years old, and yeah, they yelled that word at me.
Do you remember how you felt?
I was confused. I was confused because I was just like, why did they do that? Do I deserve that? Like, what does this mean? Is this gonna happen again? Yeah, it was a very interesting moment in my life. Yeah.
Do you use that word in your private life a lot?
Yes. Well, so there is a difference, and for everyone who's watching this, you have the word nigger, which is what the slave masters deemed the people who were enslaved niggers, and then we have this term called nigga, which is cultural. And so for a lot of people in the community, they say we use nigga as N-I-G-G-A to take back the power of the oppressor. So the oppressor said nigger with the ER, and we say nigga as a term of endearment. And I know a lot of people don't understand that, and that's fine because it's a community thing, and so not everyone's going to understand everything. And I personally don't have a problem with it inside a community-based conversation or dynamic. But yes, I do use the word, and I don't use it in a derogatory manner to harm anyone, to hurt anyone. It's more to embrace. And that's just how I was raised. It's not something that I chose. It was just something that I grew up into. And, you know, we know the difference between nigga and nigger immediately. Like, and then even with certain people who say, oh, well, you can say it, how come we can't say it? But it's because of the struggle and the things that we've had to go through that we have earned the right to be able to use that word in the manner that we deem appropriate and affectionate. Yes.
Now another straightforward question.
Okay.
How does it feel to be a black man in America? How do you see it?
Well, to be honest with you, Alex, I try not to even think about it. Because I personally don't identify as, I know I'm a man of color and I know I'm not white and I understand that, but I don't walk around like with that in my head. I'm a person. I'm a human being. I'm living in America. I'm just trying to pursue my life and my dreams but you know, then when you fill out an application, you have to check a box. You know, if you're trying to go to school, you have to check a box, you know, and those are the reminders like, damn, like, but this is, even though this is not how I see myself, I wish there was just like American, immigrant, some, you know, then I'm like, okay, great. Like, I would happily check an American box, but because racism still exists, we are put into categories, which I personally feel is dehumanizing.
So calling you a black man in America is dehumanizing in a way for you. You want to be just a man.
Yeah, I am just a man. Because honestly, like, if we were to really break down the whole black thing, like, my skin is brown, okay? The letters on my shirt is black. So if you want to be precise or accurate, I'm a brown man. If you want to go to that. But the idea...
I'm peach. Peach or cream. We're not white either.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
But I feel like the acknowledgement of black and white is the acknowledgement of the power dynamic of racism. You know what I mean? Because
also black is bad, white is good in a way, like in stories, you know, in the Bible, whatever.
With Christianity, when the Europeans came and stole the land from the Native Americans here, and they brought the enslaved Africans, they created this: I'm right, you're wrong. I'm white, you're black. We have the right way of doing things, you have the wrong way of doing things, and you must be like us, you must speak our language, you must worship our God, and you must always know your place. You're a black person. I'm white, whites only. They will put up signs, white water fountain only, colored water fountain only. And that dehumanization has continued up until 2022, because now I feel like we're so used to it that we don't even see it as dehumanizing. It's so normal. We have normalized racism. And it takes a person to really think, like, why do we still refer to people as colors? People come from nations. People, you know, they have families. They have cultures. They have ethnicities. Why can't we acknowledge that? Why do we have to say this? Like, and for me, as far as African American, yes, my people may have come from Africa, but they also come from other places in the world as well. And maybe like 400 years ago from Africa. Like, my mother doesn't know anybody from Africa. Like,
Right,
we don't
right.
have any African traditions or rituals that we do,
Yes.
but we still have this tagged onto us. Until when? Forever.
Systemic racism.
Systemic racism.
Tell
to the
me
point.
about it. Explain it to Polish people who don't know. I always talk about it to my tourists.
Okay.
About systemic racism.
So systemic racism is basically when the system is designed to keep certain people up and others down. And so, for an example, when it comes to owning a home, so in America, when you own a home, that is like the basis of starting wealth, of building wealth. You own a home, it accrues value. The American government has denied loans to people who look like me to get a house, but will easily give loans to people who are white to build wealth. And so that creates wealth inequalities, and that's systemic racism. For an example, people like me are policed heavier than white people. For an example, marijuana was considered a black person's drug when white people and black people use marijuana at the same rate. I'm more likely to go to jail. Well, not anymore because they've legalized it because there was nothing wrong with it in the first place. But 10 years ago, I would be more likely to get stopped on the street than a person who is white just because of how I look. And so if I'm stopped on the street and the cops say I have a bad attitude, it's their word against mine, I'm in jail, I'm arrested. And I have been targeted by cops several times. And I've never been arrested, I've never been in prison, never been in jail, but cops still find a way to just target me for no reason. And there are some people who, like me, get upset about that because it's unfair and we want to be free like everyone else. But there's a system of, we have to police these people because they're dangerous, they're untrustworthy, and these are ideas that people really hold dear to them when in all reality they're not true. A lot of our domestic terrorists are white people, you know?
I would say most.
Yeah, so it's like, it's so great that you're actually having this conversation right now, because I feel like through education, we can be more united as a people and eliminate the systemic racism through education and information and conversation.
Right.
Yes.
Speaking of education, you can also see it in schools, the level of schools that the white kids they get, the neighborhoods they get, like they clean them more, they come more often, you know. Like,
Absolutely, yeah. Some people get upset about it. We have this this system called affirmative action here in the United States, where people like me have been denied opportunities for so long in this country. And so affirmative action is basically a quota to have certain people of color in institutions where they otherwise would just be overlooked. And people, they get upset about that. But in all reality, white people just have better opportunities. People, they feel better having white people in their schools. They feel like white people deserve the opportunities and black people don't. And you see that in universities. You go to Harvard, you go to Columbia. I worked at Columbia over the summer, and the amount of black people at Columbia is just like crazy. And Columbia's in Harlem, and Harlem is one of the blackest neighborhoods in New York City. And Columbia University, Ivy League school, has a very small percentage of black people, and it's sad. And what they're doing, I don't know if you want to include this, but what they're doing is they're actually trying to get black people out of the neighborhood now. Columbia is buying up apartment buildings so that the neighborhood would basically reflect the university, and it's just the university should reflect the neighborhood.
They buy buildings.
Absolutely. So there, you know how they have public housing?
Yeah.
The university is buying public housing.
So then black people wouldn't move in. What the?
Yeah, Columbia University.
What stereotypes of black men do you agree with?
Okay.
Which ones you think are complete bullshit?
Okay, that's a great question. So I would like to say, first off, I don't think it's good to paint with a broad brush, because black people, African Americans, come all different kind of ways. You do have your aggressive thugs, and then you have your very shy, timid nerds, gamers. You know, it's a spectrum just like anyone else.
Right.
If I was to go to Poland, I'm sure I would find some aggressive people there, and I would find some people who are very shy and timid. We are actually the same. It's just that we have been demonized, and they'll take certain aspects of our situation. Like, for an example, if people who can't get jobs, can't get good jobs, can't get a good education, life is hard for them, they're going to tend to be a little angrier, opposed to someone who has everything that they need. They know where their next meal is coming. They have a good neighborhood to live in. There are no guns in their streets.
They have savings.
They have savings, you know. And so it's like, people say, oh, the Bronx is so bad, but like, the Bronx is only so bad because it's the poorest county in America. You know what I mean? Like, people are really struggling, and they're struggling because they don't have the opportunities, or they don't have the tools to make use of the opportunities. Because that's important. People say, well, anybody can do it, but do they have the tools? You know, like, somebody can put wood and brick and mortar and say, oh, you have a house, but if I don't have a hammer, if I don't have a ruler, or, you know, nails, like, I don't have the tools to build this house, even though I have everything I need to make it, as far as like the raw materials. Mm-hmm. That makes any sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. Any stereotype you agree with?
The stereotypes that I agree with are, you know, it's crazy because, like, for me, like, I love to have fun. I love to party. I love to dance. I love music. That's true for me, but it's not true for everyone. And so,
is that a stereotype?
Yeah, that we like to dance, you know, and sing, and we love Jesus, you know. That's a stereotype. But we also have Black Jews, and we have Black Muslims, you know. So
right,
it's
right,
like right. It's a spectrum. The stereotypes that I don't agree with is that we're lazy. We don't want better for ourselves. Another stereotype that I don't agree with is we don't value our lives. We don't value our neighborhoods. There's something that Black people in America, and I want you guys to hear me very closely. We're dealing with what is called post-traumatic slave syndrome. Slavery lasted in America for 400 years. And for an example, do you mind if I just...
Yeah, of
okay.
course.
For an example, when 9/11 happened, there were people in California and other countries who saw that plane hit the World Trade Center and was traumatized from that one event. They weren't in New York, they weren't even in America, but they saw that and it was like, I don't want to get on a plane. They had to go to therapy, see a counselor, speak to someone to overcome that. One event, one day, 9/11. 400 years of slavery. 400 years. So we're talking about generation after generation after generation of told you're worthless, they're superior, you're inferior, don't look them in the eye, don't look at a white woman. You know, this is generation of trauma, generation of anger, of hurt, of insecurities that has been passed down through our families with no therapy, no counseling, and people just to say, oh, slavery's over, get it together. And it's like, you can't undo 400 years of slavery in a decade. And then after slavery ended, the Jim Crow era started. Are you familiar with segregation? So it's like, Black people in America have been given the short end of the stick. Yet, and this speaks to the power of the people, we have been able to rise and still make accomplishments. Barack Obama, you know, we dominate the music industry. You know, we have Tyler Perry, we dominate films. You know, we even though we've had all of this trauma, we still find a way to rise. And so these stereotypes and these ideas of, you know, we're this and we're that, it's only because we've been hurt in our own land for generations. And we're doing I feel like we're doing our best to recover, and we don't always get it right. You know, we still make our mistakes, but we are trying to get it right because we want to be just as equal as anyone else. That's all it's about, really. Human beings, we all want love. You know, nobody wants to be ostracized because of their skin color or because the way their hair grows out of their head. That's ignorant. But that's the world that we live in. there are people who are saying, I'm not racist, but I don't want my kids to go to school with black people. You know? Or I'm not racist, but I don't want my daughter to date a black man.
Like the hidden racism.
That's the hidden racism. I feel like I don't think that people want to think of themselves as bad people, you know? And, but when you feel like someone is not good enough to go to school with your children, someone's not good enough to eat in your home, someone's not good enough to date your daughter, there's hate. You know, and people may say, oh, well, this is just my preference, or this is what I want for her. But beneath that is hate. Because like I said, it's a spectrum. You might find a thug and you might find an Ivy League Harvard teacher. You know? So it's like a lot of racism is hidden. And I feel like white people don't like to talk about it because it makes them uncomfortable. But we have to talk about it. You know, I don't believe in like being the only one uncomfortable. Like if I'm uncomfortable, you're gonna be uncomfortable too. Like why should you be comfortable and I'm uncomfortable? That's not fair. And so I commend you for even having this conversation again, because like sometimes we have to get uncomfortable to be comfortable.
Yeah. I read a book a couple of years ago, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man by Emmanuel Acho. If you're watching this episode and you're interested in the subject, I highly recommend this book. And that's when it hit me that I know so little, and I was, raised in a 99% white, strictly white nation. We didn't have any Latinos, Asian, blacks, nothing.
Yeah.
We were just, everyone looked the same. So that's why I thought it's important for me to dig deeper and find out more.
Yeah.
So I thank you for showing up and doing this with me for real.
Oh, my pleasure.
I have a couple more questions.
Let's go for it.
What about racism between Latinos and Asians? Is it mostly the white people that spread the racism? Like, how do you feel?
Okay, so in America, we have what is called the preferred minority. So the preferred minority or the model minority is, I would say would be the Asians, or people who can be white adjacent. So are you familiar with that?
Yeah, talk about it.
Yes. So white adjacent is people who can kind of like assimilate into the white culture without disrupting it too much. Whereas people who look like me, obviously, just if my presence alone is going to disrupt that. Whereas someone who's fair skinned with straight hair and light eyes would be able to assimilate, even though they might be Asian or Latino, or even black, because there are some black people who pass as white.
Yeah.
And so and some people get angry with that. I'm not saying I'm for it, but I understand that life is about survival, and they feel like if I can pass as a white person, my life would be a little easier, and white people, they like to say, oh, look how the Asian community did in America. Why can't black people be like the Asians? They take care of their neighborhoods, or they don't cause a lot of crime in the community, or they're not as poor or whatever. But I say to that also, Asians came here by will, whereas, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas people like me or people who look like me in this country mostly came against their will, by force. They were split up. How this all works with the model minority, when the Africans were enslaved in America, they were broken up. Families were separated. Mothers were separated from their daughters and their children, and fathers were separated from their wives and from their tribe, so that they can't communicate and overthrow their master. They were mixed in with people that they didn't even share the same language with, so that they couldn't plot to overthrow their master. Whereas Asians came together. One person came here, started a business, saved up some money, sent for the other people. They came here, they worked on their business, and they were able to build their own economy through each other, but they came willingly. Whereas people were scared. They didn't speak the language, they didn't have anybody, and they had the shit beat out, excuse me. They had, they were beaten. One of the most hurtful aspects of slavery was the physicality of it. People were beaten publicly to show, like, you don't have any power here. And I'm going to put you on this platform, and I'm going to give you 100 lashes until you submit to me. until you worship my God, until you speak my language, until you get rid of your practices and your beliefs and your rituals, until you basically assimilate into my culture but still understand your place. So like you can assimilate into the culture, but you'll never be equal to me. Whereas again, the Asians and even Latinos for a lot of the part, they come here willingly, and they have people here that can help them connect the dots, give them shelter, they can build a community. And white people uses that as, oh, be like them, or they got it right, why can't you get it right? But we can't forget about slavery. That's why we're here. That's why I'm considered a black person, because of slavery. Like, it's in our face, but we don't think about it because it's like a fish in water. You know, it's so normal, but it's right here.
It's all written on your face.
It's all on my face. For an example, I go into a store sometimes and I get followed around as if I'm going to steal something.
Oh, I heard about it in
Yeah.
the pharmacies.
Yeah, the pharmacies, yeah. And they'll even hit the buzzer, help an aisle, whatever. And like, there's nobody in the aisle but me. And I hear that, I'm like, why are they pushing like, yes?
Oh, no.
Yes. Because it's assumed that I'm going to steal.
What do you think of the future of America? Like,
Well,
what kind of changes would you like to see?
I would say this gives me hope. The fact that there are people like you who want to learn, who want to hear from people who have experienced racism, that gives me hope. I believe in the future. No, I'm being honest. I believe in the future that we will be more united because we have access to information and people are genuinely curious. And I believe at the root, people are good people. You know, I don't believe that everyone's bad. I believe that people do have good intentions, but we're set in our ways. We've been programmed to believe certain things, and we live those out. But your channel, these conversations gives me hope.
Awesome.
There will be a brighter day.
Awesome. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much for meeting me and doing this interview.
My
Awesome.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Tell them about your YouTube channel. You also have your own YouTube channel.
Yes. So I have my own YouTube channel, Scarlet Fever TV, where I talk about, I'm a preacher's kid, so I talk about a lot of things regarding race and religion from my perspective, also using the Bible to back up my information, just in case anyone want to fact check me. And I sell shirts. This is one of my shirts saved. You can go to my website, scarletfever.com, and pick it up. And, you know, we're just trying to make the world a better place, you know, and it begins with us. It begins with you. And my advice to anyone watching is don't paint with such a broad brush, because we're all unique, and we're not cookie cutter people. You know, you can't say, oh, I met one black person, they're all like this. It's a spectrum. Just like I can say I met one white person and they're all like that. No, I've met so many beautiful, friendly, loving white people that I consider friends and family. And because at the root, we're all human beings. We all bleed. We all need to eat. We all need to sleep, and we all want love. And we deserve it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Whoa, that was so good. You're laughing so much. Okay, I love it. Love your energy already.
Thank
This one
you.
is recording. This one is recording. This is a hard one.
Go for it. I hope I'm answering your questions.
Perfect.
Okay.
Questions.
Well, do I look at you or the camera?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Good. Oh my God, that's such a good episode already. You're great.
You're awesome. Thank you for having me.